Hey everybody, welcome back to the reading of Eden. I'll apologize for a little bit of background noise tonight, but it's hot here in Virginia, so feel bad turning off the air conditioner. So we'll keep it running, but this is a casual reading, so I think we can deal with a little background noise, right? Okay, so where we left off was Dr. Malcolm Green was on his little spacecraft on his way to the space tree, we'll call it Eden. And here's the next part. The sleep cabin's lights came up automatically, a slow fluorescent flicker that blossomed into a radiance supposed to mimic the spectrum of the sun. The introduction of light was irritating, and I reacted much as I would to natural daybreak. I pulled the covers up over my head and groaned. T-minus 20 minutes to destination, the computer said, in a voice that was a little too syrupy for my pounding head. I tossed the covers back, sat up, and swung my feet down to make contact with the suspiciously moist carpet. A wine glass lay on its side next to an elongated dark blotch. I didn't remember taking the glass to bed with me, or even falling asleep. I didn't remember because I had blacked out. Alcohol tolerance is nil when you've been in cold sleep for weeks. The spilled wine made me think of home. I didn't know why. I felt the distance between Earth and myself as a painful stretching of the heart, and I tried to shake it off. It was best not to get homesick this early in my trip. I had a long way to go before I could head back. I stepped over the spill and into the shower. Uranus filled the front viewport. Heavy azure clouds reached for my vessel like they would engulf the small transport at any moment. The gas giant's impressive size made me feel like I was hardly moving, but in truth I traveled at speeds fast enough that a single grain of wayward space dust could spell disaster. Holes where they don't belong, a ship without atmosphere, and me without a ride home. I had been told, as I had always been told before any space flight, that ships these days were built with multiple layers of hull, and that space dust was something I didn't need to worry about. But you could give me 100 hulls and hours of reassurance, and I'd still be nervous. After all, a man has to stick to his convictions. A delicate tubular ring came into view, rotating slowly around a spindle of latticed cubicles. Science Outpost Lola. Portholes pinpointed her surface and glittered with interior lighting. My transport rolled, adjusting its attitude to facilitate docking, and without warning, I saw Eden. I wasn't prepared for the moment my entire previous month, or maybe even my life, had been building toward. I didn't think it would happen so suddenly. My jaw fell open, and I stood gaping out the viewport like an idiot. A tree had no business being out here, but there she was. Eden, floating in the middle of deep space, high in orbit above the gas giant like some damn moon. Her branches, thick with foliage, spread toward the stars. Eden was a silhouette, backlit by the shine of the sun. And although from my vantage point she was black as sackcloth, I knew her leaves were a verdant green. I needed to see that green for myself. Not because I didn't believe it was possible, but because looking out at Eden for the first time with my own eyes had stirred a dormant part of my soul, a dreaming, seeking part that wasn't afraid of the abstract and fantastic, but instead longed for communion with it. I was hungry for Eden's green. Giant branches reached out into space, to Uranus and toward Lola and my small ship. The transport banked again, and now Lola took up the viewport. I seated myself in the control couch, buckled the safety harness, and folded my hands in my lap in an act of forced patience. Now, of course, I had to get near Eden as soon as possible. I had to touch her with my own hands, even if it would be through the thick padding of an excursion suit's gloves. The transport slowed, the crossbars and support girders of Lola's internal hub filling the viewport. Tethers reached out from the brilliant white glow of the small docking ring. They latched onto my ship with a clank, and I was drawn in. The lights were low, and the deck was quiet. I had arrived during the station's night cycle. Lola's small flight deck was largely vacant. 3 empty docking bays and a neatly organized, grease-free maintenance bay made me aware of just how far away from civilization I really was. My transport was the only ship in sight. Eden had a shuttle somewhere, and while I waited for a security officer to come greet me, I contemplated where the emergency evacuation hangar might be. The station's muted light did little to still my racing mind. I was wide awake and antsy. I wanted to do something, anything. I regretted not resetting the transport's diurnal cycle when I emerged from cold sleep. It was going to be a bitch to adjust to Lola's cycle, and I'd be lucky if I didn't fall into insomnia that sometimes accompanied space travel. There was a clank, the sound of a bulkhead being unlocked. Out of view, a hatch creaked open and then slammed shut. The station's security officer appeared, strolling up the deck, datapad under his skinny arm. He wore a Red Sox cap high on his head and scratched at one bearded cheek. "Dr. Green, welcome to Lola," he smiled. "It's 4 a.m., Sol time." He went through the standard security check in silence. I was glad to note that the transport's clocks hadn't been all that far off. "Any firearms?" "I'm a biologist," I said. "Right." After waving his contraband detection baton between my legs, he straightened, tapped on his datapad, and yawned. "Holy shit, I'm tired. Normally I get to sleep in." "Sorry you had to rise at the crack of dawn on my account," I said, and he grinned again. It was a crooked thing, amusing and endearing at the same time. His Adam's apple bobbed for an instant. "That's all right. I'll finish up early. I'm Donald." He extended a long-fingered hand, and I took it for a single downward shake. "Have you seen her?" he asked. Eden? Or did he mean Rosalind? Maybe he and Rosalind were together? A pang of jealousy took me by surprise. I swatted it away. Donald gave me an odd look. "Not much else to see out here. Come on, follow me." He gestured with a cock of his head and turned to head down the flight deck. Behind his back, I exhaled with relief. My PDA vibrated in my breast pocket, and I removed the small octagonal device, glancing at the screen. "Are you here?" The text message from Rosalind glowed. I responded that I indeed was. But still, I wasn't ready to see her. Donald led me down a narrow, low-ceilinged corridor that would have benefited from a few more lights. He pushed open a bulkhead at the far end and guided me through. On the other side, we stood in a curving hallway where most of the ceiling panels were dimmed. Diodes pulsed faintly on cream-colored walls. "This is the living level," Donald said, and halted in front of a door. "And this is your apartment." He punched in a code on the keypad. 4321, he said. "Change the code if you don't feel safe, but we're a small crew, and last I checked there were no thieves or rapists among us." The door chimed and slid open, and beyond it, interior lights flickered to life. "Mess hall is at the end of the corridor that way. Opposite way, you'll find the lift to the science level." "Great. Thanks, Donald," I said. "Donnie." He patted my shoulder. "Enjoy your stay. Let me know if there's anything you need. I'm assistant to operations in addition to security. Small crew, we all do double duty. I'm sure we'll find another job for you before long." He smiled and nodded as if to affirm this, and then headed off toward the mess hall. I stepped into the tiny apartment and let my duffel bag fall to my feet. A single rack bed jutted from the wall, and I went to it and sat down. There was a small desk opposite the rack beneath a round view portal that showed a hand toss of stars. The bathroom was no wider than my shoulder span. When the commode was folded up, it turned the space beyond the bathroom into a shower. Convenient. My PDA chimed. 14L. Come see me now. And that's it for tonight. Sweet dreams, folks, and we'll be back doing this soon. Night.